Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar and another really hot topic, how to get more clients on retainer. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Peter Czapp and this is my world. It all started 17 and a half years ago when myself and my business partner Paul set up the Wow Company, an accountancy practice that helps people build beautiful businesses, businesses with purpose, businesses that look after their people, that do good in the world. And over the years, Wow has come to specialize in working with agencies. We know agencies inside out. We've got 450 that we work with across the UK, typically between 8 and 80 staff. And as well as helping them with their accounts, we help them grow profitable and sustainable businesses. It's an awful lot of fun. And that journey around helping businesses build profitable and sustainable agencies took us to this place. 8 years ago, I set up the Agency Collective. It is the world's best community for agency owners. It's the wonderful peer support. And those of you who are members of the Agency Collective will know just how much you get from your membership and what it feels like to be supported by your peers, get great content and help and assistance on your journey of growth. And as part of that, I've also been benchmarking agencies since 2012, helping work out what it is the top performing agencies are doing differently through bench press. Those of you who knows those reports, you recognize some of the stats I'm going to share later, will know it's a fantastic resource to give you insights to help you build a better agency. And in all of the work that I've done over the years, I've been constantly fascinated by the difference between those agencies that achieve great things and those that just tick along. And I have this never-ending, or I'm searching for those answers in the same way that you're searching for the answers. And I'll be giving you a lot of those today. The other thing I've been searching for over the years are great partnerships. I think it's really important that we all look for people to partner with. And we're very lucky to work with some brilliant partners that help enhance the services that we offer, help bring further insights. And today, this webinar is brought to you in association with Nimbus Hosting. Now, I've known Nimbus for a long time. I've always known they have great hosting solutions that are really easy to use. A number of our clients use their hosting solutions and absolutely love what they do. In recent times, I've been really impressed with some of the insights and the content that they've been putting out beyond just their hosting solutions. You should absolutely check them out. They've got a great guide actually that we've produced or they've produced for this. It's how to get more from your existing clients. In fact, how to earn even more from your existing clients. And we're just going to put a link in the chat to that you can download, because it's an example of another piece of great content that they produce. And later on in the webinar, I'm going to be joined by Tom Kingham from Nimbus, and he's going to take us through some brilliant case studies, specifically showing you how some of his clients have used or got more clients on retainers and how they've packaged that up. So some really interesting case studies coming up from Tom. Now, in terms of today, as I say, a lot of what we do is around this theme of building profitable and sustainable agencies. And that sustainable bit definitely applies today, because there is nothing like retainers in helping you build a sustainable business. They obviously bring predictability, they help you sleep better at night. And with that predictability allows you to plan longer term, allows you to make decisions with more confidence, and ultimately will lead to more profitability as well. Now, just give you some stats to start with. You know, I love a stat. 83% of agencies said in a recent benchmarking survey that they would like more clients on retainers. No great surprise. I don't need to convince you of the benefits of having more clients on retainers. That's why you're here. You already know that. But let's have a look at the makeup and where agencies are at now when it comes to retainers. And in fact, let's look at in a typical month, how an average agency's billing is broken down. We split this into 3 components. Now, 37%, this is on average across agencies all around the land, 37% of their revenue in each month comes from pre-agreed retainers. 38% comes from ad hoc projects for existing clients. So these are existing clients that you've got where you're doing additional work for. And that leaves the remaining 25% coming from new clients. So you've just won a new project, and that revenue that you generate from the new project goes into that bucket. So that is the split on average. What I would encourage you to think about is where you are at, just to be conscious about this. First of all, what are your metrics for pre-agreed retainers, ad hoc projects, and new clients. Can you measure it? You know, a lot of people will be nodding their heads, say, yeah, of course we can measure it. We've got these set up as tracking codes in Xero. And those of you who use Xero, if you're not using the tracking code functionality, you should definitely check it out. This is the ability for you to tag all of your income and indeed all of your expenses by different tracking codes to allow you to categorize this. So at a click of a button, a lot of our clients are able to see how much is on pre-agreed retainers, how much is on ad hoc projects, and how much is on is coming from new clients. And just being conscious of this and conscious of the right split for you, I think is a really good starting point. Now, just to give you a sense of how you're faring in terms of the percentage of your client work on retainers overall, this is how that is broken down. Now, at the bottom end, we've got 13% of agencies don't have any clients on retainers, not a single one. And at the top end, again, another 13% have almost all, so between 81 and 100%. Now, if you look at this, a lot of agencies sit down at the lower end of the spectrum. We've got, you know, well over half sort of having under 40% of their client work on retainers. And a key question for you to start with is, what targets do you want to set with this? Because everything starts with a target. We need to be conscious about what we're doing here, and understanding what you want to try and achieve with this is a really important starting point. And there's, I guess, two ways to look at it. One is the end game. What is the end game that you're trying to achieve? Where do you want to get with retainers? If you're making a commitment, if you're one of the 83% that want more, well, how much more do you want? What is the end game with this? I hear a lot of people talking about saying, do you know what? I'd love to get retainers to a point where my overheads are covered, right? And that is a very common goal to aim for, because psychologically, it's a nice place to be, isn't it? That, you know, at the start of each month, you've got enough revenue coming in to pay all of your bills. Then any ad hoc projects, any new clients is pure profit on top of that. That's psychologically a nice place to be, but it might not necessarily be the right place to be, because depending on how your business is set up and the level of resourcing and how you want things to flex throughout the month, you may want to set yourself a different target. So what's the end game with this? And, you know, is it 100% of clients on retainers? You know, again, for many agencies, that's where they like to be, but it might not be right for you. Have a think about what's right for you. And then what's the next step on your journey? So you might be sat there thinking, well, crikey, I'm one of the 13% that have no clients and retainers. I'd love to get to 50, 60, 70%, but that seems a long way off. So what's the next target you want to set? Maybe it's your first client at retainers, or 5 clients on retainers. Maybe it's £5,000 a month, or £10,000 a month, or whatever it is for you. But what is the next milestone on your journey? What target do you want to set yourself with this? And let's have a bit of fun. You know, let's set a target and go for it. Because here's the thing. It's really important that we start the conversation about this early. We start the conversation internally around the importance of retainers, and we start the conversation with our clients early. This won't happen by accident, right? Retainers won't just magically happen. We're very used to working, or agencies are traditionally used to working in an ad hoc project way. And unless you are conscious about moving your clients onto a retainer model, then it won't just happen. So it's really important that you start the conversation early, before or as part of the sales process, right? If you are selling ad hoc projects and then you are attempting to convert clients to retainers afterwards, that's actually really tricky. That's hard to do, because you're getting clients used to working in a particular way. And then you're having to flip that and say to them, right, we don't want you to work that way. We'd like you to work this way. It's really important that you start that conversation early, and you say to them, look, this is how we work. And you talk about the importance of retainers, the value of retainers. And I guess a challenge that I have for you is, if you're starting that conversation early and say, this is how we work, could you only work on retainers? You know, if you're really serious about this, and the reason I mention this is one is to really challenge you about this and get you thinking. But I know agencies that when they've sat down and thought about this, they said, you know what, that we really don't want to work on the project by project basis. We want to work on retainers. They're better for us for all sorts of reasons. And so we're going to say right at the outset that we'll only work with you if you work with us on a retainer. We'll do an initial piece of project work, and then off the back of that, there will be this ongoing retainer element as well. And I've told this story before, but I remember chatting to a client of ours years ago. They did two parts of the business, SEO and design and build. And when they found out just how well the SEO, they basically did some profitability analysis. The SEO business was where they made all their money. Design and build barely broke even. And once they worked this out, they never took on a web build again unless there was a contract already in place for the SEO retainer. And I just thought that was really interesting. Once they saw the stats around what just doing design and build was doing for their business profitability wise, they made a decision that they would literally only ever work for clients on retainers. And I wonder how far you could take that approach. Now, language is really important here. I've talked a lot about retainers, but from now on, I'm going to suggest we use that word a lot less. And here's why. Retainers is all about us. It's not about the client. It's not seeing things from the client's point of view. And actually, just think about the language. Retained, it implies in somehow being constrained, held to us. And that's not necessarily the relationship that a client might want to have. So let's think about the connotations of the words retainers. And there is an alternative viewpoint to this. How about we think about program of work? Because a program of work allows us to have different sorts of conversations with clients, it allows us to have elevated conversations around their objectives, around what they're trying to achieve, and moves away from them feeling like they are retained or obligated to us. It actually works more in a collaborative partnership. And it's also important that we focus on the benefits of working in this way with clients. And there are a number. So we know the benefits for us, but benefits for the clients are really important, that we continuously remind them of this. So if we are working on these programs of work, allows us to do better planning, because we're not working on this ad hoc basis where you phone us up and say, can you do this? And we have to scramble around. And whenever you do better planning, you will get better results. Allows us to have a more strategic approach. Rather than just having our head down in the project, we can lift our heads up and say, well, what are you trying to achieve over the next 12, 18 months? Let's elevate ourselves up and have those more strategic conversations. And you can also add value. If you know you're going to be working with someone for a long period of time, you can drop in elements that add value to that relationship, that are really highly valued, that bring you closer together, that generate more opportunities for additional work, by the way, but which clients really, really value. You can do those little bit of extras that perhaps you don't get the opportunity to do when you're just working project to project, that bring you closer together. And also, clients get prioritized resource. So when you work together through these programs of work, you are able to plan your resource better and ensure that when the client needs it for their projects, that it's available. So those are the key benefits. And I think we know the benefits for us, but let's make sure that we're communicating the benefits for our clients. Now, there is a fifth benefit for our clients, but it's in brackets. And the reason that it's in brackets is because it's rates. And I'd much rather we focused on the other four benefits of retainers before we had to reduce our rates. You'll know, if you listened to my webinars before, I'm a big fan of not discounting, absolutely not discounting without getting something in return, because that's where margin is eroded, and it's eroded far too easily. The stats from this year's bench press were shocking at the amount that agencies are willing to discount without getting anything in return. So I would use this as an absolute last resort. But just to be clear, you are getting something in return here, because having a client or retainer that pays regularly is of value. It's unquestionably of value to you. And it is worth, if pushed, I would say a reduction in rates, but I certainly wouldn't lead with it. It would be the fifth thing that you mentioned, and only if you really, really had to. And by the way, the key to that, I said it with getting something in return. The key to getting something in return, retainers, is not just that you can bill them each month, it's that you get paid each month without hassle. I remember a client chatting to a client, he had a 20 grand a month retainer. It used to stress him out because they would not pay invoices on time. He'd often have 4 months invoices backing up. This wasn't a large business. I think they were £600,000-700,000 at the time. And this client, you can do the maths, represented a significant chunk of that revenue. And therefore a lot of his cash was being tied up in this client. He had staff to pay. And when, he was owed 80 grand, but they still had this program of work to do, he was put in awkward situations. So look, favorable rates only comes when clients pay their invoices on time. And maybe even this is an opportunity to look at moving to direct debit. I know one of the case studies that Tom's sharing later is a really interesting example of how an agency was able to move their clients onto direct debit and completely take the hassle out of that payments process. So focus on benefits, think about language, and then we're coming on to how do you create your retainers. Now, those of you who already have retainers, what I'd encourage you to think about is how you can, what's the next level for you? I'm going to share some thinking that might be interesting, that might challenge you on how you put your retainers together. If you don't have retainers and or have done this loosely over the years, this is a really good opportunity for you to think about and solidify exactly what goes into your retainers and how you can make them as profitable as possible. Because here's the thing, a lot of people think that retainers are less profitable than project work. Well, they're only less profitable if you let them be less profitable. It is up to you what you put in retainers. It's up to you how profitable they are and how tightly you monitor them and how freely you let clients get away with scope creep. So retainers can be profitable and unprofitable, just as projects can be profitable and unprofitable, right? So it's up to us to make sure that we're tight on both, by the way, that we are tightly scoping our retainers and our projects and ensuring that they are adding value and delivering profitability for our business. That's kind of a given. But we have two choices when we're creating retainers broadly. Do we go down the packaged approach or do we go down the bespoke approach? So for some people listening to this, you will be able to put it, traditionally into three packages, ABC, your services, and make it really easy for people to buy from you. So package A consists of these 5 things. Package B consists of, might be the same 5 things, but more of them, or it might be, 10 things and so on. Package C consists of, is maybe your top level package. And going down this route makes it really easy for people to buy from you and really easy for your team to sell. And that shouldn't be underestimated, because if you're making it easy for your account managers and directors and anyone within your team to be able to upgrade clients to one of these packages, that's a really good place to be. It does, however, move you slightly towards the more commoditized end of the market. So you are trading this off a little bit. You're trading off the ease of buying and selling these packages, which shouldn't be underestimated. That's a really good place to be, with the fact that they're buying a commodity, a package. Now, the alternative approach to that is to go down the bespoke route. And for many of you listening to this, you won't be able to put what you do into packages. You'll just be scratching your head thinking, well, that's just too complicated. All our clients are so different. Our projects are so different. We've got no chance. But what you do have an opportunity to do is talk to your clients about these programs of work and say to them, look, what are your plans for the next 12, 18 months? How can we put these packages together? And I'm going to take you through a few questions later on that will show you how to put together these bespoke program of works. But let's just look at packages for now, because the traditional way of doing this is, £2,000 a month, £4,000 a month, £6,000 a month, something like that. That's what I see a lot with agencies. But actually, a smarter way to do that is just change the top point and make sure you anchor high with your top package. That gives you the opportunity to move your middle package up. It's then perceived as more attractive, and actually you can generate extra profit. Now, again, those of you who've heard my webinars in the past will heard me talk about this in more detail, but I still can't talk about it in enough detail as the guy that wrote this book. So Pricing Creativity by Blair Enns. It's a book I talk about all the time. We shared a link in the chat. We're about to. The reason I talk about it is it's just really, really, really good. I know so many agencies that have read it, implemented what it talks about, and it has changed their business. So I hope I can give you that gift by you being able to do the same. But read that book. It will talk in detail about how you can specifically package those or price those packages. But I guess the overriding principle I just want to share with you today in the short time that we have is just avoid that, 246. Make sure that you anchor high and think about exactly what goes into the packages to make sure that they're all profitable. So more advice in that book. Now, with your existing clients, if you are in a situation where you're sat there thinking, well, hang on, I can't put it into packages, or I wouldn't know where to start, a wonderful opportunity you have is all your existing clients. Maybe these are used to working with ad hoc projects. Maybe you're sat there thinking, how on earth would I convert these guys into retainers? Well, I can show you how. Here's what you need to do. Go to them and ask for their advice, right? This is really important. And of course, clients are going to be willing to help you. They're going to be willing to engage in collaborative conversation. You say to them, look, we're thinking about putting together these programs of work for clients, because what we've noticed, and again, this is an opportunity to explain the benefits. What we've noticed is when we work on ad hoc projects, occasionally things are rushed. They come last minute. We haven't necessarily got the resource. We don't have the full picture because we haven't got the full strategic view. And we think there's a better way of working. We think that actually by working on programs of work with you, having visibility over the next 12 and 18 months will deliver you much more value. It's obvious, better planning equals better results. It gives you prioritized resource. We know what's coming up and when it's coming, roughly, and that gives you prioritized resource in the studio. It gives us the opportunity to add additional value to what you do. So these are the reasons that we're doing it. And what I'd like to ask you is, how would you like to work on these program of works? If we were to work together over the next 12 months, what might that look like? What would be useful to you? What would be valuable to you? How much predictability do you have around the projects? Questions like, well, what are your plans for the next 12 months? I mean, by the way, retainers or not, we should be asking our clients this question all the time. We need to deeply understand what is going on with them strategically in order for us to be able to deliver on that. Because if we're just working at the lower level, then we're not going to have the opportunity to tap in some of that strategic thought. So what are your plans for the next 12 months? What's coming up? And you can suggest ideas to them. This is a great opportunity to pitch ideas. Well, we worked with this client on this project. Is that something you might be interested in? But what you're doing is you're looking to help create in their minds an idea of what this might look like and the benefits of this. So you say to them, well, if we were to create a package for you, what might that look like in the next 12 months? And what sort of price would you want to pay for that? And start having those conversations. And you can almost start using your clients to help you create your packages. Rather than guessing, you can sit down for hours and plan what goes into your packages and then have to present it to them. But a much better way of doing it, trust me, by a long shot, is go to them and say, what would you want to see in our packages? What would be useful to you? What's the value? And then how much would you be willing to pay for it? There's your market research. And then if your clients are helping you create your packages that they really want to buy, well, then they're just going to buy them. It's that simple. So questions like what would be really valuable to you will help you become a strategic partner. And this elevates you away from the agency that I use to do this thing, to do that project, to the agencies I go to help me achieve my strategic objectives. Completely different place to be. And it's surprisingly easy to get to. I remember having a conversation with a client of ours a few years ago, video production agency, really good agency. They were 1.2 million turnover, did some great projects. Look at their show reel and you think, wow, these guys have got it nailed. They were profitable. They were in a really good place, but they worked project by project and they didn't want to. They wanted to become this strategic partner. So they spent, and it was only a short amount of time actually doing it. I remember chatting to them afterwards and they said they've made massive steps forward in this area. And I said, well, what did you do differently? They said, instead of running events talking about video content, they ran events talking about content strategy. Instead of putting out articles and white papers and reports and sending out emails and blogs just on, video production, they started talking about content strategy. Everything was around strategy. And suddenly they started to become known for their strategic thought. And clients were coming to them having strategy sessions. And, oh, by the way, that was something they added into their offer, and they added a strategic thought piece that clients could buy. And suddenly they were having conversations around content strategies for the next 18 months, 2 years, of which video was part of, rather than just being right at the end of that conveyor belt, the guys that get given the video project. Well, if it's not you, it'll be someone else, and you're going to have to pitch, and we're going to decide based on price. Suddenly, they were involved in much higher level conversations. So I guess a question for you, when you look at your website, when you look at how clients perceive you, are you positioning yourself right now as being a strategic partner? Or are you positioning yourself as someone who just does the project work? Because if you are positioning yourself, and therefore you'll be perceived as someone who just does the project work, well, that's what you're going to get. And like, that's okay. I know plenty of agencies that do perfectly fine at that. However, there is a whole different world to unlock, a whole different world of, to be frank, profitability, if you can elevate yourself up and start having those more strategic conversations, because it will result in more strategic long-term programs of work. Now, I'm going to go in a second to chat about some case studies. But before we do, I just wanted to talk a little bit about these things. So far we've talked about how to get more clients and retainers. So we just to summarize, you've got to set a target for this, right? You've got to be conscious about this. This will not happen by accident. And the second thing that you need to do is you need to decide whether you're going down the package route or the bespoke route. So that needs to gain a conscious decision. Whichever you choose, you should go to your existing clients and ask them for opinions on what they would want to see in either of those two options. And then once you have that, you have a chance to be able to have those conversations with clients. And particularly if you're going down the package route, you can talk about this with your team, incentivize your team to upgrade clients from package A to package B, to even get them onto a program of work or retainer in the first place. So those are all of the things that will help. Now, I talked earlier around how retainers need to be just as profitable as projects, and you can have bad projects or unprofitable projects and unprofitable retainers. Scope creep will still exist in retainers. And in fact, in many ways, it can be a bigger challenge because you feel that you have this obligation to deliver and you have this monthly commitment. It's ever so easy. And the client feels that as well, by the way. They feel like, well, we're paying you monthly, so therefore we're going to maybe potentially push the boundaries a little bit. So scope creep is very real in retainers, and it's very important that when you're scoping your either your packages or your the bespoke program of works, that you're very, very clear about what is included and crucially what's not, right? And I think everyone listening to this, I'm sure, is good at scoping and will say, well, look, included in package A are these things, right? What's equally as important to do is to say, well, look, here are some of the things that might occasionally crop up for you that are not included. Just to be really explicit, the following things are not included. And if they crop up, here's how we should handle them. In fact, you'll know I'm a big fan of having the conversation up front. Right, look, in the course of our retainer, there's going to be little things that crop up. How do you want to handle those situations where it goes outside of scope? What's the sign-off process? Well, who has the authority to sign it off? What's the process? How will we bill for it? And here are some of the things that might crop up. And you could even put together pricing on it. I know some agencies are just, we'll just say, look, here's the flat rate. We'll bill you at the end of the month. We'll let you know when we're starting to go over, and we'll bill you at the end of the month. Whatever works for you, you need to find a way of ensuring that retainers don't become a ball and chain around your business where suddenly you have this obligation. Because here's the thing about retainer creep, at least with project scope creep, when the project ends, it's done. We've all had those projects where we go, oh my God, that was a nightmare, but at least it's done. Now, if you've got an unprofitable retainer and it's creeping, you'll get to a point where it just will creep, and suddenly 12 months down the line, 18 months down the line, it's double what it was in the first month. You're delivering double the work for the same price. And it didn't happen overnight. It just creeps. So you've got to be really careful because these things are never ending. So scope creep is more important than ever. And so are reviews. It's really important that you sit down and formally review your relationship and the program of work with your clients regularly. And how often that is, I guess, depends on the rate of change within your client, what's going on, the number of projects and pieces of work that you're working on. But certainly to have, you could argue 12 months is too long a period of wait. Maybe 6 months, 3 months would be a period of time to actually sit down and formally review. And again, don't fall into this trap of thinking, well, we're getting together monthly to go through our sessions, that's a review. No, it's not. That's a conversation about the work you're doing. This is a review of, at a higher level, how are we performing? How's our relationship? What's going well? What's not going well? Let's have a look at the profitability of this. Let's look at what's coming up. Is this package that we're on, this program of work that we're on, the right one for you, given what's coming up? And also these conversations are wonderful opportunities for upselling, moving people up to the next package, adding additional elements in. That's why these reviews are important. Now, the other thing about retainers is you've just got to be careful. If you've got clients who've been on the same retainer for 2 or 3 years, even if they haven't got, there hasn't been any scope creep, there's the danger that all of your costs have gone up, and if your prices haven't, then you're going to get your margin squeezed. And so, again, as part of these reviews, it's important that you have those conversations about increasing prices. It's important that you set those expectations at the outset. I know a number of agencies that simply say, both verbally and in their contract, prices will increase at the rate of inflation each year on this date, and then up they go. There's no questions asked. It just happens. So have a think about how you want to handle these things, but handle them you will have to. Retainers, just getting clients on retainers is not going to be the holy grail to profitable and sustainable, right? We still need to do the basics. We still need to ensure that things are properly scoped and we handle the creep. We still need to make sure that we're having reviews and having high level conversations. We're seeking upselling opportunities and we're increasing our prices. Those things go without saying. Now, I wanted to bring in Tom today from Nimbus to share some case studies. So I'm going to have a little chat with Tom because he's got some really interesting thoughts from the many years he's been working with agencies. So let's say hi to Tom. So look, first thing to say is congratulations, because you're a new dad for the first time.
I am.
How's it all going?
I am. Yeah, fantastic. 6 weeks, little baby boy, Arthur. He's beautiful. Best day of my life. And yeah, he's fantastic. And mum's doing great as well, Molly. So yeah, really good. So yeah, I'm used to the early starts, put it that way.
Good. You're looking pretty good for it. So early into it. And just tell us, just for everyone, people who don't know you, just a little bit of background about you and what you do at Nimbus. And I guess just to give people a flavour of what you've seen of agencies over the years. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I've had the pleasure of working with agencies now for the past 5 to 6 years. So I'm the business development manager at Nimbus Hosting, and I speak to agencies day in, day out about how I can save them time and also make more revenue from hosting as well. So yeah, it's fantastic to speak to agencies every day. And today I'm going to share with you how 3 top performing agencies have delivered consistent growth through building retainers. Or I really like the way you've described it, Peter, a program of work.
Yeah, fab. So you shared these case studies with me, and they're really interesting. So let's start with the first one. Tell us a little about this one. What have you seen this agency do?
Yeah, sure. So let's dive in. So the first one is Sarah. So Sarah runs a Manchester design agency. So she's really good at, well, she used to be really good at, and still is, on building sports brands, logos, and brand guidelines. And she was used to working very much project to project. But in the last year, she's gone from having no retainers to 30% of our client base being on retainers. And in that time, she's also increased revenue by 12% and net profit by 26%. And she's now got enough cash reserves to sleep at night. So for 8 months. So the golden question really is how did Sarah do it? So she was struggling, like I said, with ad hoc project work, like a lot of agencies do. And funny enough, she actually met another agency owner at an agency collective event. And she came away from that conversation and the answer was simple: she must get onto retainers. So Sarah shifted her focus. She did what you said earlier, Peter, about asking for advice. So she spoke to her clients' marketing teams and she spotted an opportunity. and that was to create a content calendar. So rather than just creating brand guidelines and logos and then leaving it at that and finding the next client, what she did is she actually spoke to her clients and worked out that she could create this content calendar to align her brand assets with their marketing channels. So for example, she found out that there was a need for graphics for social media. Paid ads needed some graphic work as well, and web design assets, and presentation templates for the sales teams as well. So yeah, I caught up with Sarah last week, mentioning that I was coming onto this, and yeah, she said she wished she'd done this about 18 months to 2 years ago.
It's one of those, so there's a lot of agencies listening to this who will be, design creative led, sat there thinking, how on earth can I get clients and retainers? And then you think about that calendar or content calendar, and you think, well, it's so obvious, really, because it just elevates the conversation and forces the client to think what will be coming up. Well, of course, there'll be lots of stuff coming up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Such a simple move, such a smart move as well. Okay, I love that. What else have you got for us?
Fantastic. So number 2, so we have Mark, who runs a Suffolk website design company and focuses on e-commerce. So Mark has managed to increase their revenue by 5% and profit grew by 14%, and that was in 9 months. And he didn't add any additional headcount. That was something Mark really wanted to do. He didn't just want to grow to effectively just add additional cost. So how did Mark do it? So for website design companies and development companies, retainers works really, really well. That's because once you build a website, it needs to be watered, looked after and maintained. And often the clients don't have the time or resources to look after that. So for a web design company, that's great to package up into, say, maintenance or a bundle of services. And Mark actually used a really good analogy when he was talking to his clients of building websites like having like a new car. You've still got to, after having a new car, you've still got to put fuel in it, service it over the years, maintain it. And with a website, you've got to do the same. You've got to make sure that you've, maintaining the security, you're updating the site as well and adding fresh content for it to grow. So yeah, focusing back on what Mark did, he introduced 3 maintenance plans, and he created one that was a good option, a better option, and a best. And what that did, because often, our brains work in 3s, you had the kind of cheaper option or the lesser option, and then you had the absolute Rolls Royce option. And often people ended up going for the middle or the higher ones based on that value.
So can you give me some example of what was included in these packages?
Yeah, sure. So it was a mixture of, say, development time, website updates, SEO, and also hosting. But the clear thing that he did, which I know you touched on earlier, Peter, was that he made the packages super simple and fixed. So it was really easy for the clients to understand. He had it on collateral, he had it on the website. It was so simple for, say, the account managers to understand how to upgrade them and the value that they would get should they upgrade as well. Say if they wanted more development hours, more like SEO spend, and say more secure hosting. So I think that's a real key point that you mentioned earlier. Make it super simple for your clients to understand.
Yeah, and super simple for your team to sell. So that, again, there'll be lots of people listening to this that would dream of a situation where their team could sell and upgrade whilst, so it wasn't just reliant on them and the sales team. And this is the opportunity that's available if you can put things into packages that is easy for people to buy. Okay, neat.
Definitely.
That example, what have we got for us?
Yeah, finally we have Dave. So Dave runs a Midlands digital agency. Interesting with Dave, he actually runs a really, looks after like a niche market. I know there's a lot of talk within the agency world about specializing. So Dave's niche is on mortgage brokers. He actually used to work for another digital agency, and he had a lot of contacts in the with mortgage brokers. And one thing that say he did different to the other 2, where they almost brought retainers in later, since the inception of the agency, he made sure that he lived and breathed building retainers. So he didn't just take on like you mentioned earlier, just ad hoc work for the sake of it. And over the last 5 years, they've got 95% of their clients on monthly rolling retainers, an average monthly contract of £365 per month. And typically, Dave and the team signs them up for 1 to 2 years on a contract. And the average customer lifetime value is often over 8 years. So you can see there's two main benefits. It's a fairly low cost for the clients, and obviously you're bundling all that value into those packages. High customer lifetime value as well, because obviously you've got 365 times by 12 over 8 years. That's a fantastic place to be, really. And yeah, all the customers as well are on Go Cardless for regular monthly billing. So yeah,
that sounds like the dream, right? 95% of your clients on DD staying for an average of 8, up to 8 years. Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. For those not familiar with Go Cardless, I would imagine a lot of people are. We've been talking about it for a while. Can you just explain what it is and how it works? Because we think it's fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So we've actually been through a similar process at Nimbus Hosting. Obviously, we're working with a lot of agencies. We're collecting a lot of monthly recurring revenue, and we often found it was quite a manual task of doing like bank reconciliation, where you'd have to be like, money would come in and you would then have to allocate it to a particular account, and it took a lot of time. But the beauty of, say, Go Cardless, I know there are other ones out there. It allows you to set up like automatic billing for credit cards and direct debits, and it just allows you to free up your resources and your headspace to focus on growth.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier, didn't I? It's not just sending the invoices out for these retainers, it's making sure you get paid, and Go Cardless will ensure you get paid. I think that last example will have got people thinking, how can we get to that point, potentially where 95% of our clients are retainers and just the money just comes in like that. It's a great place to be. I know a lot of our clients have, as part of their bundling packages, have added hosting in. And anyone who'd like to talk to Tom about that, obviously, feel free to email him afterwards. Rory's going to pop his email address and LinkedIn profile in. Tom, anyone who joined this webinar, there's a special offer from Nimbus. Do you want to quickly explain what it is?
Yeah, sure. So anyone who's joined today, or say listening on the recording, we've got an offer of 6 months half price to take out one of our hosting packages. What I'd first recommend doing, though, is just having a conversation with me. So let's get on a demo. I know Rory's going to be sharing a link later. We've got that fantastic guide on how you can earn more from your retainers. But I'd always recommend jumping on a call, because obviously, I can talk to you there about what you're currently doing in terms of bundling your hosting into, say, maintenance plans, and we can work like a bespoke package as to how you do that going forward. So yeah, we've got that offer, but I would recommend jumping on a demo with me. And like I said, Rory will put that through there now. I can see he's just done that. Cheers.
Wow. And we're going to be joined by Rory right now, who's going to very kindly chuck some questions at us. And we had a load of questions coming beforehand. So in the email that I send out prior to this, I say, look, if you've got any questions, let me know, and we'll make sure that we ask them. So we've got some ones already come in, including one of the longest ones we've ever had as a question. Sue, we will get to that, don't worry. And there's some ones on the Q&A as well. So Roz, you're in charge from now on.
Yeah.
You get to fire questions at me, Tom. Over to you.
Love it.
Hey,
I love it. No, nicely done, guys. Yeah, great prezzo, Pete, and love those case studies, Tom, as well. So yeah,
thank you.
Been a good session. Yeah, like Peter said, there's the Q&A sort of section is there. Keep firing questions in there, and we'll get to all of those. If you prefer to put them in the chat function, we'll still see them. But we'll start with some of the questions that were sent in beforehand. So Alex had a couple of questions in an email saying, we already offer retainers, but only have 20% of our clients on one. How can I encourage my account managers to get more signed up?
Sure, yeah, I'll go for that one. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, firstly, Alex, I say absolutely well done, pat on the back there. You've got 1/5 of your clients on retainers, which is fantastic, and a lot more than many other agencies would have. In terms of moving forward, say for the sales team and the account management team, I would probably break that down into, say, 3 recommendations. Firstly, I'd recommend that you prioritize your accounts. So a lot of you will be aware of, say, Pareto's law, where you get 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. So I would work out who that is if it's not already that 20% and go after them. Secondly, I would recommend building a strong onboarding process for your account management team. So make sure that every account manager has a checklist for what they're going to go through. Communication is absolutely key here, and make sure that you're setting regular check-ins as well. So is it going to be monthly? Is it going to be quarterly? Because like on the examples earlier, for example, with Mark, you've got the opportunity there to like upsell at those points as well. So make sure you set regular check-in times as well. And then finally, I'd create some, good goals that are stretched there, and reward your team for hitting them. So for example, it could be incentives, it could be Amazon vouchers, commission for hitting, say, MRR growth or career progression. So yeah, just to summarize on that point there, Alex, really well done on hitting 20%. But yeah, I would recommend prioritizing your accounts, knowing who you want to be getting more on retainers, make an absolutely, rock solid onboarding process, and check in regularly with your clients to see if there's any opportunities there to upsell. And then finally, create some goals and reward the team for hitting them.